everyone, this is Tom from Dirk Witte Music Store in Utrecht, the Netherlands. Today we are taking a look at a very cool true vintage hollow body Gibson electric guitar. That was kind of like at the time, kind of like entry level, student level, beginner level-ish, but nonetheless incredibly cool. And yeah, a true vintage guitar also made by the same people that made those very great models like the ES-125 and the Les Pauls from those days. SGs probably, because the Les Paul in 1965 was not a model. But really cool guitar. This is a 1965 Gibson ES-125T hollow body electric guitar in its original Summers finish. So like I said, it's kind of like an entry level-ish type of an hollow body electric guitar made by Gibson. So this is true hollow body, and then the T stands for thin line. So it is not one of those deep jazz boxes, but more so kind of like ES-125 in thickness. But this was kind of like level 1 or level 2 maybe, yeah, of what they made at that time. We also actually have a very cool Gibson ES-120T, and I believe that is like the cheapest of the bunch, because that also has a like a top routed or like top installed electronics and pickups, so even more easy to manufacture. But this one is then a little bit more high-end than that, but a really cool guitar, and also in a very nice shape for its age, already 60 years old. So let's dive into the specs. We've got a fully hollow laminated maple body, and like I said, thin line, so it is kind of, yeah, ES-125 in feel on your lap, for example, but it is then still completely hollow, so you do not have a block going through the center. So it is also very light, which is very nice, and it also actually plays quite well, also unplugged, get plenty of sound. Got your original sunburst finish, which is also looking very nice, apart from like finish checking, which is looking really good, mind you. Really nothing major to go over, apart from some buckle rash and some minor nicks and dings, but that is to be expected from a vintage guitar that is already 60 years old. So for its age, in a very nice shape. Dual sound holes, the F holes. Got some single ply binding around the top as well as on the back. Got your single P90 pickup installed over here in the neck position, so a very simple guitar at that. You can maybe also kind of like think of this as like the jazz version almost of the Les Paul Junior. So it is like fully hollow, also got a P90, but then in the neck position, and it is like entry level, so yeah, maybe kind of like a good resemblance. Got your original pickguard, faux tortoiseshell material, which has been starting to warp a little bit, so you got kind of like a swoop going on, as in that it is curving a little bit, but it is completely intact, and yeah, don't really need to worry about that all that much. But this is kind of like what is kind of like bound to happen with these old faux tortoiseshell pickguards, that those tend to like warp and like curve up a little bit, and then oftentimes also crack. But that is not the case with this one, so it is completely intact, so that's very nice to see. Got your original rosewood bridge with your original rosewood bridge base. And then we have got just one volume and one tone control for your single P90 pickup in the neck position, and your original trapeze tailpiece. Plug it in over here on the side. Moving on to the neck, mahogany neck, one piece mahogany neck with a rosewood fingerboard, with also no fanciness going on, so no binding, no fancy big inlays, just some pearloid dot inlays. As for the neck profile, that is still kind of like the wider neck, so at the nut width it is still 1 inch and 11/16 of an inch, which is actually for a lot of people like preferable, because later on in 66 and 67 Gibson went over to a very narrow nut, which was 1 inch 5/8 or 1 inch and 9/16 of an inch, but definitely narrower. But this one is not that, so that is actually very nice to see. So the profile is actually a little bit on the slim side, not overly slim, so still plenty of meat to hold on to, but yeah, earlier 1960s definitely does feel a little bit more beefy, but this just still just feels and plays really nice nonetheless, and it is also in a very nice shape, so no cracks or repairs going on, but also it is not mint, so you do got some honest player wear, but apart from like some very minor impressions and the finish checking, nothing to worry about whatsoever. The nut, that is the original bone nut, and like I said, probably like the 1 inch and 11/16 of an inch. Headstock is also very plain, very basic, this being kind of like an entry level guitar, so just your Gibson silkscreen logo, no mother of pearl or anything like that, and your trussware cover is just a plain black trussware cover. And then the tuners there on the back, which are the original vintage Cluson 3-in-a-row tuners with the white plastic tips. And then the last thing to mention, it also comes with its original case, kind of like the chipboard slash cardboard case from those days, which is, gotta be honest, kind of in a rough shape, has been taped up a number of times, so would not recommend using that as an actual case, but it is very cool to have that obviously included, so that you do get the full package, but like more so as to collect. So yeah, still pretty cool to have that included. So that was everything that there's to cover. Really cool guitar. Even though this is kind of like entry level from those days, it is still made by those same people in the Gibson factory in Kalamazoo, Michigan, using the same materials, the same tools. So it is really, yeah, just as good as all of those models like the ES-335 or SGs when it comes to the build quality, but at a fraction of the price. Back then, but also now. So this is also kind of like entry level when it comes to like true vintage guitar. So really cool. And it is also really nicely set up. Plays really great, and also sounds really great with that single original P90 over there in the neck position. Really cool guitar. Let's hear what it sounds like. But first, if you're interested in this 1965 Gibson ES-125T, be sure to head over to the links in the description for further details. If you enjoyed this demo, be sure to like the video and to subscribe to the channel for more cool weekly demos of cool vintage guitars like these, or cool other electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass guitars even, all of that really cool stuff. Also be sure to like us and follow us on our socials, Instagram and Facebook. Links are also in the description. With then all of that being said, let's hear what this original 1965 Gibson ES-125T thin line electric hollow body guitar sounds like. Going to be playing it through this late 1970s Fender Pro Reverb. Just going to tour you around with the tone control a bit. So first tone control all the way up at 10 and then roll all the way off for those great jazzy tones. So let's move on to that part and let's then take this really cool 1965 Gibson ES-125T for a spin.